you remember from the previous classes, that how it's Kariv Ma'id, in other words, it's very close. Torah mitzvahs are very close to the Yid, not because the Yid has to closen himself to Torah mitzvahs, and as the Alter Rebbe proved it in the previous chapters, how there is within the Yid that drive to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu via Torah mitzvahs, as long as he has his brain and his mind, and he every Yid wants to maintain that relationship. In other words, there's Torah mitzvahs as the Eibishter, and it's Karev that I can come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is in the previous chapters. Again, just to recap, we mentioned this line even a few times in Perek Yud Ches. The Alter Rebbe is saying it's so Karev Ma'id that even though you don't have your mind set straight, you don't have a structured mind which would tell you keep always in line with Hashem, but more than Torah mitzvah is still Karev. How is it Karev? And not only Karev, it's close, Ma'id very much, because Alter Rebbe is telling us in this Perek that it's not that we have to go there. The whole Eibishter is within the Yid, because the Yid is a chelik to Kal Mimal. Obviously, the Alter Rebbe mentioned it before, namely in the second chapter, and on third and fourth and so on. But here the Alter Rebbe elaborates that every single Yid, and the Alter Rebbe says, Yeh Mishiyeh, whoever it may be, has the koyach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu within him, and he says because he has this Ava Mesuteres, not only has a part of Hashem within him, but he has as an inheritance from Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, a Ava Mesuteres, which means an hidden innate love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, hence Torah mitzvahs is not only Karev because I'm close to it for me to Torah mitzvahs, but Torah mitzvahs and my interest in Torah mitzvahs is part and parcel of me. Yeh Mishiyeh, whatever Jew, every Jew. And the Alter Rebbe says that this is, and what is the shadish of the neshama, the source of the neshama? Again, Alter Rebbe, we elaborated this because of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they were merkava to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all elaborated in the previous classes, which again you can tune into them. And but they all come from the Chochmei Law. This is again, we elaborated on this in the previous classes, but also in the second chapter, which is where the Alter Rebbe introduces the Shadish HaNeshama, the source of the Neshama. So in the last week's class, we pointed out why Chochma. What is it Chochma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Chochma of Atzilus, or and that, in other words, the source of the Neshama, i.e. meaning its connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is the idea that it begins with Chochmah as opposed to Bina, which is an elaborate understanding in the reality of Hashem, which is again, we don't have the ability to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu fully. It's impossible for a created being to understand the Creator, but in the same token, Hashem does open a window and says, I make myself accessible and available to you. For that matter, it's a mitzvah in the Torah. You have to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem would be inaccessible, completely inconceivable, completely unattainable. So we would never be able to. Hashem would never say, "Well, know me. If I'm not there, I'm not accessible to you." So there's some degree Hashem does expose Himself to the world or to the human mind, and namely the Yid, which has a natural innate perception of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a connection which allows him to perceive HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that also exists within the Yid, the Bina, the broad understanding of the reality of Hashem. But why the Chachma? What's the Chachma as opposed to Bina? So the Alter Rebbe explains, and again, this was the previous class, the immediate class, last class, a little bit of the previous one, that Chachma, the difference of Chachma Bina is, Chachma is called Koyach Ma. It's understanding something, when you understand something on a level of yet Ma. It's the initial entry into perceiving, understanding any subject for that matter. We gave the example, when you're looking into a book, you know that this is supposed to make sense to you, and at the moment it doesn't make yet sense to you. It doesn't matter what type is not associated precisely with Torah. You know that there's something to be understood, and to you it's still just cryptic words and so on, and you don't make out what it is, and you know that you have the ability to understand. You go and you putting your mind to it with full force, and all of a sudden, like a flash comes on. Wow, these words make sense, and the precise wording exactly illustrates and conveys that message. that initial flash, had someone been sitting next to you at the moment, at the time, and say, two people trying to understand the same page, and you jump and you say, I got it, and someone would tell you at the time, what did you get? What did you understand? You couldn't have explained it. You give me a few moments, let me dissect this, let me expand on it, let me elaborate this, or let me understand it a little clearer, in order for it to connect with myself. In other words, in order that I should be able to have my hands on it, and then I'll be able to explain it to you. And the question is, you just said aha, which means you got it, you understood basically what it is. If not, you wouldn't jump from excitement, or if clarity would not come to you, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't say that if you're an honest person, you would say, I got it. And the answer is you did get it. The question, why can't you explain it to your fellow friend sitting beside you? Because at that point, what captured the concept was your chokhmah. And chokhmah is like a flash, which is the initial entry into any intellectual perception, a perception of any intellectual thought. The entry to it is through chokhmah. That's how it works in anything, not necessarily even in Torah. But and it's extremely powerful. And when you say flash, because it is like a flash, there's a certain excitement, like a light turned on. Well, all those lines make sense. You understand the message which is conveyed via those words. But because it's just a flash, take for examples, we gave the example last time, somebody, and it's very powerful, very potent, but in the same token, it doesn't have the ability, you don't have the ability as of yet to hold, to hold on to it, at least in a way that you could even minimally explain to your friend. Just because the reason it is because this is what the Koach HaChochma is all about. It's about the initial perception, which is very strong. It's the initial perception which is very, it carries a lot of weight. In other words, it's extremely, the potency of this initial catch, initial understanding, it is extremely strong. We said extremely potent. But in the same token, you need, in order that you should have it should settle in your mind to the extent that you can give it over to another person, you have to use the koach habina. That's the difference of koach habina. And when we gave the example, we say flash. Like someone walks in the street, two people walk in the street, one guy notices a lightning, the other guy, whatever it was, he had something on. It doesn't matter how the details would work, but he sees a lightning and he jumps, the whole sky is lit, and his friend tells him, so could you show me, what did you jump? You know, the whole sky lit up, I just saw lightning. Could you show me the lightning? Show me where it is? I can't show it to you. It came and it left. The same thing, that's the koach of chokhmah. It's very powerful, but it usually comes, and in order for it to resonate, in order to completely settle in my mind, I have to use the koach of bina. And that's in the words of chokhmah itself. Koach ma, like, what is it? It's not something that you really have or could hold on to. So it says that's the reason why the connection of the Yid with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is established as Ava Mesuteres, is innate love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, based on that Chelik Elikami Mal, that part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in himself, which is the Sheidish Shemokah, the source of the root of this Neshama is the Chochmah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chochmah, that Tzilus, like we learned about the four worlds, that Tzilus Bri Yitzirei Asiya, which is brought in a number of places, as well primarily in Kabbalah and Chassidus. But what's the chokhmah about? Why the chokhmah? Why the initial connection between the Yid and HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why on the chokhmah level? So Alter Rebbe explains, because the connection of the Yid and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is precisely on the chokhmah level, because this is what the chokhmah is, that I cannot fully understand it, because to an extent, the moment you feel you can understand it, it's probably not God. In other words, if it begins by Bina, if Bina follows Chokhmah, I know that I'm climbing a ladder. I'm working on perceiving something which, by definition, is inconceivable, something which cannot be attained, something which cannot be grasped, which that is God. Like it says, "Les machshavet fisabei," a human mind cannot grasp God. So, as long as I know that what I'm introducing in my bina is something which begins with something which I cannot particularly pinpoint, I cannot put my finger to it, and then I try to take at least that as much as I can get from it, and then explain myself this understanding or this message of what a lakus is all about, of godliness is all about, then bina, there is some structure to the bina. But if my connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be initially with bina, we know that's already not God. That's maybe me, things that I'm imagining is God, but it's not God. Because on God it says, less machshavet tfisa bey. A human mind cannot precede, cannot tfisa, cannot be tofes, cannot grasp HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if my initial connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is something which I grasp, so I know it's already not God. So that's why the connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu begins with Chochma, Koyach Ma. Ma says, what? I'm not sure what it is, but I know it's there. It's power. It's there with a lot of power, which that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But can I say that I could perfectly understand it? No. The moment you say you cannot perfectly understand it, you're already connecting. That's where you're connecting to God. Because the human mind cannot perfectly. So if it began bina means I could already perfectly understand it. No, it's not God. If I cannot perfectly understand it, I know it exists. It's like the sky is lit up. It's God. It's the godly reality. But I cannot pinpoint and say, okay, this is what I am grasping. It's me. I am grasping. It's already not God. You know the famous vart of the Baal Shem Tov, based on the pasuk. We elaborated on this as well, mamish last week's class, but we didn't say this. We didn't mention this vart of the Baal Shem Tov, which perhaps can contribute to this notion. It says, it says if a person would hide in his hiding place, let's say in Seiser, and I won't see him, says Hashem. You can't hide from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, if it's about me, if I stand in the way, my ego, myself, even in the context of understanding God, I understand, I worked it all out, I have exact understanding who God is and how God works and so on and so forth. Va'ani. So the Baal Shem Tov says it's in the context about man's ego, or man's self, which stands in the way of Hashem's presence, of Hashem's dwelling. Hashem says, I don't see Him. But if you pause after the lo, va'ani lo, which means it's not about me, erenu, Hashem says that I will appear to you and I will see you. So if it's va'ani, the pause after va'ani lo erenu, Hashem says I don't see you. But if it's va'ani lo, it's not about me, then erenu, then I connect with you. Like we said in the very bigger picture, we brought this Gemara also last week, that says if a person is haughty, he's haughty, he's a balgaiva, ego. He's about ego. Hashem says I cannot live in the same domain. So when Hashem can't live in the same domain, Hashem is obviously is there. There's no place which is devoid of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Hashem says I can't stand in this place, because if it's about you, it's not about God. So this is when you're dealing with man's crassness, man's ego, and so on, when Hashem says I cannot be there. But even when you're dealing with on things which are more subtle, things which even are associated with godliness, if my connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is way, I understand it's you, it's elaborate understanding, it's not God. As opposed to the initial relationship, initial connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the level of Chochmah. And Chochmah is Koyach Ma, which means it's very bright, it's very potent, and it obviously is, because it's God. But it's not something that I can grasp. It's Ma, what? I'm still saying what, even though I'm connecting to it. That's God. As long as you're saying what means in your mind, it's something that it's not something which is not graspable, in other words, something that you cannot grasp, that's already God. Then you can take that and stretch it further to the koach of bin and das and so on. But it has to start with koach ma, which in other words, Alter Rebbe says also the lashon of emunah. That's what's the idea of emunah, faith. It's very much synonymous, tantamount with the idea of emunah, of faith. What's the idea of faith? Faith is and is not in the same time. If it's something which settles, I understand it, so you can't use the word faith, because you understood it. I don't have to have faith that this is a table, or this table is standing in front of me, and there's so many chairs. I see it with my own eyes. I understand something, so that I don't have to have faith in it. And faith is something which I don't understand. So if you understand it's not faith, and it's faith, it's not understanding. That's similar to the idea of Chol Kochma. It's there, but I have faith in it because I don't grasp it. And that is very powerful. That's why the faith of the Yid, which is again associated with his Ava Masuteres, is very powerful. Because that's where God is. God is in the emunah of the Yid, more than the way he believes he knows God. Because knowing is about me, I understand, well, that's not God. So again, just before we just go on in the text over here, does it mean that a person should not try to elaborate the minimal knowledge that he has of God, elaborate, expound on it, and expand on it, and so on? The answer is definitely he should. We are given the koch of bina as well. We connect to a koch of good of bina, and then das, and then it ultimately produces feelings, ava, v'yira, and so on. But that's all only if the bina comes subsequent and consequent to the feeling of the connection on the chachma level. If it begins bina, it's no good. But if bina it follows the connection of chachma, which means if it follows emunah, Hashem is, and I believe in it, and even if a little bit that I could connect, but it's all in a way of ma, then you can take that and start stretching it further to bina. So, and therefore, what does this tell us in the end of the day? That those people who are ma'aminim b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to the extent they gave up their life because of their emunah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it wasn't based on their scholarship, their level of scholarship. It wasn't based on their level of brilliance or profound understanding, because it's on the kechma level. So the kechma level is equal by every single person. If it's the understander, the scholarly, the woman, the child, they don't say, woman and child like in a degrading, condescending manner. No, it's just they're not people. They're not the adequate time to invest in understanding and perceiving and so on. So, but when you're dealing with that koach ma of the neshama, everybody's equal. And therefore we found in our bitter history, over the hundreds of thousands, probably millions of Jews throughout the last 3,300 years, people who gave up their life, al kiddush Hashem, and ready literally to expire physically, not only to give a part of their life or part of their comforts, but completely ready to expire in the name of God. Who were they? They weren't particularly the scholarly. They weren't particularly the knowledgeable. They weren't particularly Talmidei Chachamim. It was the simple Yid, just like the Talmud Chacham, and sometimes even, we mentioned even last week, sometimes because the simplicity of the unintellectual, or those who were less formally considered scholarly, they had a certain simplicity and earnestness, and their emunah was untainted. It was so pure, that koach ma, that they were the first ones to go. The famous story of Hannah and her 7 children. So here you're dealing a woman and 7 children, and they gave up their life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it doesn't come from bina, a structured understanding. You say, well, I understand more about God, and therefore I'm probably going to give up my life first. So if you understand more about God, it's not God anymore, because the connection of the Yid and the Eibush is in a koach ma level, similar, synonymous with the union of emunah. So this is where we're holding in the text. I would love very much to finish this chapter today. So let's go on. V'lochein hanoshim. Hold on a second. Yud Ches here. V'lochein hanoshim b'ma'aretz ma'aminim b'Hashem. Women, the laymen, the ignoramus, believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you're dealing with emunah, which is l'mayla min hadas v'asaga. Because faith, which is again synonymous with this notion of chochma koach ma, is transcends structured knowledge, transcends perception. It's as a fool believes everything, the wise must understand. But it's not for that. It's not saying the Rebbe brings this pasuk in a very positive manner. That if you want to have emunah, it's many times goes as associated with pesi, and it doesn't mean precisely pesi means a fool. It doesn't mean exactly the fool. Someone who's unlearned. He has much greater emunah than many times. The Orim, the wise, has to understand, while that pesi, that unlearned, has that sincerity, that simplicity, that untainted emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For that matter, it's not exclusive to the person who's actually unlearned. For that, there's a Gemara which says Pesi Yamin L'Chol Davar Zeh Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu was also Pesi, even though Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest Chacham of all. Moshe Kibul Teda Messina, he brought Teda to the Yid. And Moshe was brilliant. Moshe had Chochmah, because he was again Teiras Chochmaskom Abinaskom Leini Kolamim a pasuk in Teira. Teira's wisdom and Teira's knowledge. And Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who was the conduit, who received the Teira of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and gave it over to Yidden. So he was the climax, the highest level of Chochmah. But yet Moshe Rabbeinu knew his connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not about the scholarship. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that you're dealing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's something which transcends structured perception. It's kayachma, it's emunah. So the Gemara says, Pesi Yamin l'chol davar zeh Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu knew that his connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is it's transcendent to the whole notion of Chochmah, or rather Bina means any structure and understanding. In something which you could say, I understand. And once he had Pesi Yamin l'chol davar zeh Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe could also, subsequent to that, and a continuation with that, an extension to that, he could have taken Torah and bring it to the Yid. And Torah's takach chochmaschem abinaschem. But Moshe Rabbeinu, though knew, why was he the one to conduit? Because he knew that it's not just a buddy with HaKadosh Baruch Hu about scholarship, that I could know exactly HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is conveying me a certain level of scholarship and I have to give to the Am Yisrael. No, Pasi Yam l'chol davar zeh Moshe Rabbeinu, because he knew that Eibishter is l'mayla min hadas, higher than knowledge. And so this is Pesiyam, Kodesh Baruch Hu, and in the face of Kodesh Baruch Hu, God essentially transcends the whole notion of intellect and knowledge. And like it's stated, no thought could ever grasp Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's who He is. Seichel is not coming closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu via intellect. He is transcendent from the whole phenomenon of intellect. And therefore, in front of that Eibishter, which is less machshavet v'isbeiklal, hakoil kipitim etzle yisbarach. Everybody is like fools in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So here he says, we added that even Moshe, which is one of the Chacham Mikol Adam, actually this term is said in Shlomo, but Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe Kibbutz Misin, it was also called Pesi. But here he says that in the face, he comes Milmaila Lamata, in the face of Hashem we're all like Pesi. Moshe Rabbeinu perceived that and understood that. But in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is transcendent of knowledge, we're all like Pesim, we're all like fools. Our connection essentially HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where does it begin? Where is that initial connection? Is all on the level of Emunah. Like it says, so Moshe, this David HaMelech said, I'm like a bar v'layeda. A bar is like I think it's a non-domestic ox, I'm not mistaken, or an animal, which is v'layeda, and I don't know, in front with you, David HaMelech says, I'm considered an animal, like animals, in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all behemoths. But I'm still constantly with you. So, there's another Pirush, actually, which Alter Rebbe himself brings later, I believe in Perek Mem Vav, that even though I'm in front of you, behemoths, and even I'm in bar in front of you, and I don't have adequate knowledge because you're dealing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which transcends the whole phenomenon of knowledge, I'm still with you. That's one of the simple ways of explaining this pasuk. But here the Alter Rebbe speaks, it touches the pasuk so beautiful, and he says, no, not despite. It's because had my approach to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is I know you, and I figured you out, and I could grasp you, and I can understand you, so I'm not Tami Dimak, I'm not constantly with you. I'm constantly maybe with myself, but it has nothing to do with you, Hashem. He says, because I understand Behemoth Sayisimach, then in the face of you, I'm Behemoth, like an animal. I'm a bar, and because V'lei Eida, because you're transcendent from the whole phenomenon of knowledge, so my connection to you is not on a level of structured knowledge. So that's why I need Tami Dimach. That's why I'm constantly with you. So this is again Alter Rebbe says, because I'm a bar and because of behemoths, that's why I need Tami Dimach. Had it been differently, it would be to my knowledge, I know you, the basis, the predication would be das. It wouldn't be about a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I wouldn't be not Imach at all. Certainly not Tami Dimach. But because I'm bar, I realize that you're transcendent from the whole idea of das, and therefore my connection with you is much deeper than that, which is emunah or chochma kechma. That's why I'm imach, but not only imach, but tami demach, I'm always with you. And for that reason, therefore, for this reason, the lenient among lenients. As we mentioned last time, this is a term that someone who's lenient among society, and you say, if you brought all the lenience together, and he's lenient among lenient, you understand how distant he is from overall observance of Torah mitzvahs. And more than that, Paishe Yisrael, people who had advertent sinners among Israel. Meisrim nafshem al kedushas Hashem, would give up their life for the sanctity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We found in history not only the laymen, not only the ignoramus, not only the kosher women and children, but even people who are kal shebakalim, lenient among lenient, and it could even be yesterday didn't put on tefillin, didn't have planned to put on tefillin to the next day, but when it was a matter of announcing or renouncing the wonders of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he ready to completely give his life over to 100% expire everything about him. Again, not only partial discomforts, but completely expire in the name of God. Who did it? Again, even says even kal shebakalim. And this is again documented in our history that Paishe Yisrael, sinners among Israel, Meisrim Nafshem HaKadosh Hashem, they gave up their life for the sanctity of God. Al Arayv, the majority of them, the Seivli Minuyim Koshim, and they would suffer terrible torture and pain. Not to renounce, not to deny the oneness of Hashem. And even they were, again, boors or ignoramus. They had no knowledge, structured knowledge on the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And yet they still gave up their life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because their connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not on the level of das or bina, was on the level of chokhmah, kechma, emuna, which legabe HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all about emuna, because the Eibush has transcended the whole idea of seichel and das. And that's why they give up their life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it was completely irrelevant, the level of scholarship of the Yid, how ready he was to give up his life for Al Kiddush Hashem, to give up his life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Al Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify Hashem's name. And he says, even the little which this individual knew, because there's a mitzvah v'yadaita hayeh, that the person has to try to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the maximum of his ability. When it came to the time of giving up one's life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it was totally irrelevant on their level of knowledge. Even the yedim, even the little they knew, ein misbeinim klal ve'ein meisnim nafshem achmazdas v'beinis beinis b'Hashem klal. It's not because they pondered on the greatness of Hashem, which they were ready to give up their life, and they did not give up their life because of their knowledge and understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu klal at all. Ela belishum das v'izbeinos, was without knowledge and without pondering on the reality of Hashem, Rakilu Dover Sheyefsher, in the face of the Yid, because he's connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu on the level of Chokhmah, in the level of Emunah. In the level of Chokhmah means to say it's something which is transcendent of structured knowledge. That's where the Yid is connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Therefore, the way it came to expression in a time when he was tested on to give up his life to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kiddush Hashem, it was something it was something that he could not deny in the oneness of Hashem. Not like I figured it out. No, I could not, because this is part of the Emunah Hashem Echad is part and parcel of the Yid. So it's not that he thought and he made a cheshbon, or he expanded on the minimal knowledge that he had of HaKadosh Baruch Hu based on the mitzvah, then he made a decision to give up his life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not at all. It's like it's something in the face of the Yid. It's something which he cannot. So Efsher means even if he wanted, let's say, he cannot. This is who the Yid is. Just like God cannot deny God, but when the Yid has a part of Hashem within him, which is part and parcel of the Yid, so he cannot deny one of Hashem. Without any reason, without any argument, without any answer. It's not klal, it's not something which you could negotiate over here. And behind the reason is because Hashem Echad Meir and Mechai Kol HaNefesh, because that oneness of Hashem in the end, ultimately when you're dealing with a Yid, it illuminates and vitalizes Kol HaNefesh, the entire soul of the Yid, by the initial, again, its investment, the investment of Hashem Echad, the way it enters into the psyche or into the Yid as a whole, The first entry begins with Chochma, which is L'mayla min hadas, like we explained and elaborated earlier, that it's Chochma, that initial entry is something which transcends structured knowledge, B'haseichel hamusag u'muvan, or structured intellectualization, and which is again ultimately leads to perception and understanding. It's transcended, it's beyond that, it's ma, associated with the Emunah, which that is the connection on that level, the Yid and the Hashem connect. So therefore, when it came to a challenge of giving up their life to for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wasn't something which was based on their understanding, even the bit they did understand. So firstly, the Alter Rebbe says, you see people who had no knowledge, no understanding, not even a commitment not of underlying basic observance in their Torah mitzvahs, that also wasn't relevant when it came to that test of Mesiras Nefesh, of self-sacrifice for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But even those who did know, did have some understanding, again based on the pasuk V'yadaita Hayim Eshvei Solavecha, V'yadaita Hayim, where we do have a mandate, we have the obligation to try to understand Hashem. The reason why they gave up their life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not because they understood, is because Koyach Ma, because the Yid doesn't connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a level of understanding. Its transcendence is associated with Emunah, and when it comes to Emunah, everybody's the same. Emunah, Das, knowledge does not play a role when you're dealing with Emunah, and therefore it was something that was they could not deny they could not deny in Hashem Echad, and therefore without any dialogue, without any negotiation, it was clear that this is who I am, because Hashem Echad ultimately shines and illuminates and vivifies and vitalizes the entire nefesh, because the connection with the Yid is on the level of Koyach Ma, which transcends Das, transcends understanding, and therefore that's where he went for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and ready to go till the end, because it was based on that Emunah, on that Koyach Ma. Have a great night.